The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
we are now about to witness the
it's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
All right. Woo! Let's see how this works, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am out of breath, but I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Monday, July 17, 2017. Thanks so much for joining us. As always, we like to start our show by thanking our patrons, without whom this is not possible. I literally just ran from the sound booth to my seat. And it's not as far as it should be for me to be panting, but it's far enough for me to mention it. Anyway. We have phone lines, 857-600-0518. If you want to join the conversation, I'd say we're operating at about 75% efficiency. One more week, and we're going to be kicking at full steam ahead. As obviously you could tell, I'm not broadcasting from Boston. I am broadcasting from somewhere in Atlanta, Georgia. That's not important. What's important is that we're here and we're ready to discuss the news. And as always, I want you to join in and weigh in on the discussion, 857-600-0518. We haven't had calls in about 3 weeks, so we would love to hear from you. We didn't have phones last week, but we have phones tonight. There's a lot to talk about. And I would say I'm not sure. You can see, here's my collar. My producers didn't even tell me my collars was messed up. Here we go. All right. I'm settled in. I'm ready to go. A lot to talk about. So there's a couple of things that's happening in the progressive community that we should discuss. I am going to say that for last, but I want to mention it at the top because to me, this topic of unification with potentially the progressives unifying with the alt-right in order to fight back against the establishment, I think it's a lot of bullshit, and I think it's something that we need to be very, very serious about in terms of why. I don't want to just say that it's bullshit, but I need to explain in great detail why I think it's ridiculous for people to suggest that we align with the alt-right in order to get anything accomplished. So we're going to discuss that pretty good. Hello to everyone in the different chat rooms. Yeah, Q rings. We are live. And I want you guys to call in 857-600-0518 as I buy myself a couple of seconds to get my bearings about me. All right. Now, tonight we don't have a lot of fancy media, but what we do have are very important, serious stories. There's a story coming out of Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota tonight, of an Australian yoga instructor. She was a meditation instructor. She was a white woman, and that matters a lot for this conversation. Her name was Justine Damon, and she was killed by police over the weekend on Saturday. She called for the police to come out to help her because she believed that there was a burglary in process or an assault in progress. There was something happening, and she believed that she needed the police. Now, once she called them, according to the local ABC affiliates there, she went down and she went out of her home to meet the cops to let them know why she called the police and to basically show them where she heard the disturbance. Something transpired. We don't know what transpired. And the reason we don't know what transpired is because the police officers did not have their dash cam on. And they did not have their body cams on, but the dash cam, rather, was at a different angle than what it could capture. What happened was that she ultimately was shot and killed by police officers. This police officer, the partner, who was sitting in the passenger side, reached over and shot past his partner through a window, killing the woman. Now, that's why the dash cam can't get it. We don't have any footage of it because it's behind the dash cam. But we couldn't get any information from their body cams because their body cams were conveniently turned off. All right. This is another example. We've seen so many examples particularly in the black and brown communities, of people calling police officers and the police officers ending up killing the people that they were called to help. And this is important. This is important to distinguish the fact that she was white, because two reasons. Number one, black folks and brown folks have been telling America for quite some time that there is a major problem. There is a major problem with our policing agencies in the United States of America. We've been telling white America that there's a problem with policing agencies. There's a problem with the encroaching police state. There's a problem with police hyper-militarization, militarization, period. But hyper-militarization is actually where we are. We've been discussing that for some time. And what happens every single solitary time when we tell white America, and we tell America in general, that there's a problem with our policing agencies, what happens is that they ignore that and they vilify African Americans. They make the victim of police violence. They instantly make them a thug. They instantly make them a criminal. They instantly bring up anything they did in second grade, third grade. They instantly bring up anything they can to vilify the person that was killed in order to protect the policing agencies. But now, here we see, and forgive this terminology, but I have to say it like this. This is how Malcolm would say it. We see a lily white yoga instructor, a bride-to-be, who called the police for her protection. And we see that she ends up getting killed by the same police agent just 20 miles away from where Philando Castile was killed. There is a tragedy that needs to be addressed at the face value of the tragedy, because there's a woman, 40-year-old, who's dead. And I personally, I don't care. I personally don't care the race of the individual that has been killed. What I care about is the fact that our police kill people with impunity over and over and over and over again. And time and again, we see them get off. But what I care, and why I care to mention her race, is because of two things. One, the violence and the encroaching police state that has been burgeoning in the black community for some time has now spilled over and crossed the tracks into the white community. And we've been saying it for some time. If you ignore the violence in the black community and you try to erase it by suggesting that every person, every single damn person that was killed by a police officer was a criminal and a thug. Therefore, there's nothing wrong with our police departments. The only thing that's wrong in America is with the people who are complaining about it. And they've been able to use that as a means of silencing any criticism of our policing agencies across the country. And we've been saying for the longest that if we don't address it now, it will spill over into the white community. And that's exactly what has happened. And the most tragic, unfortunate, I'm not going to say I transcend race, because that's such a damn cliche. But my measure of pain and empathy is not predicated on race. So my heart hurts for this family, 100%. But there is a social critique that has to take place, and that is the same hyper-militarized, cowardly-ass police officers who are scared of their shadow. I mean, holy cow. If they are scared of a white woman, if they're scared of a white woman who is in her pajamas, what kind of chance do you think a black person stands? Let's take this first caller, Terrell Starr. How's it going, my friend? Thanks for calling in. I already have your name. What's on your mind?
I'm well. Thank you so much. I've always wanted to call your show. And first of all, I respect you very much. I'm happy to hear you talk about the subject. So my first question to you is, legally, what do you think has to take place in order for police officers to be held accountable for their actions? One of the aspects of the law that I'm very passionate about is a doctrine called the Doctrine of Qualified Immunity, which pretty much protects officers civilly from being sued, right? And so my question, but the thing is, you don't see a lot of aggressive pursuit of punishing police officers, even from the Democratic side.
Right.
There's so many Democrats who are very much in line and step with police officers who do not indict the racists that they face. So my question to you is, what do you really feel it will take just from the community side to put pressure on elected officials in order to take top path and beyond that?
Yeah. Hey, man. Thanks so much for the call. And we got a lot to catch up on. We need to talk. But let me answer your question off air if you don't mind. So what I feel that has to happen, that's actually a tough question, Terrell. Here's why it's a tough question. Because the reality of it is that it had to be felt. It has to be felt in the white community. But I can't say that without saying that some white people are going to suffer. Like this tragedy in Minneapolis. You know, the only way we're going to see a collective body politic press back against policing agencies is if this is not only being decried from the black community, it absolutely has to be decried from all over the country. And the reason I say that is because here's a disappointing thing. Here's a disappointing thing. And to my producer, I needed to, the producer, if you would control the volume for the phone calls, you could place them on mute and whatnot there. That would help me out a lot. So I'm taking this person now, and if you would put that on mute for the main channel, give me the thumbs up when you have it on mute. Okay. And when I call for it, you'll unmute it. Okay. All right. Sorry about the segue. Here's the problem. If white America cannot identify with the pain of black America, then they will always either directly deny our pain, or they will, I don't know what the hell just happened there. They either directly deny our pain, or they will always excuse it away. And if they don't identify with it, then they cannot be in solidarity with us around it. And when we talk about Democrats, when we talk about political leaders who do nothing about these things, we talk about it in context of not only the fact that they're Democrats, but also because they're the majority. They're white America. And as I say this, I'm being very delicate with it because I never want to say that for people to understand our pain, people have to die. That's the last thing that I want to say as a person who has empathy. But the reality of it is if they do not see how utterly and effing ridiculous our police agencies are, if they don't ever see it themselves with their own eyes, then they will never identify with the fact that this shit has been happening in the black community as long as there has been a black community. And now with the murder of Justine Damon, it's quite possible that they can see how utterly ridiculous it is for a police officer to be a police officer if you are so chicken shit coward that you are going to shoot a woman in her pajamas, a white woman in her pajamas. I mean, I swear to God, if a white woman in her pajamas doesn't stand a chance, then what the hell do you think is going to happen to a black man in a hoodie? So unless they can see this, then there is no solidarity. Unless they can feel it and empathize with the black and brown communities, there is no solidarity. And there's no change in the Democratic Party. There's no change in the Republican Party. There's no change, period, because they will always allow that insidious narrative that has been pervasive in American history that black people are inherently criminal. Therefore, if a police officer had to kill them, then the police officer must have been feared for their life. And now we have an example of a chicken shit cop who shot through a window to kill a white woman in pajamas. Now ask yourself the question, white America, what the entire hell do you think is going to happen to a black man? Philando Castile, Tamir Rice, John Crawford, Eric Gardner. I believe today is the anniversary of them killing Eric Gardner. What are they going to do when they see a big black man? Or what are they going to do when they see a black woman? All right, let's take this caller. Caller, you're live on the air. Thumbs up. What's your name, comment, and/or question?
Hello?
Hey, you're live. What's happening? This Bryce?
Oh, yeah, it's Bryce. Hey.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Going good. So, great conversation, of course, and I think honestly, if I guess I would say if terms of what's going on with the police, obviously it's been going on for too long.
Yeah.
And now they're about to do this Detroit movie about what happened back then. And I just kind of had a thought that if Sandra Bland and Eric Gardner and so forth, if they were all white, would the changes happen in the police? You know, if all these people that were murdered, they were black, if they were all white, would policing change? Would white America say, okay, wait a minute, we can't have this going on?
Right. And
then would it be changed? Because the only way that we really get convictions, I mean, the guy that raped those women, and I think in Oklahoma, he got like 100 or something years. Dylan Roof, he's getting put to death. Like, and it depends. Like, you got to either shoot down black people or you got to do a certain crazy crime,
right?
And then you'll go to jail. If not, everybody, walks, and the system is so messed up and corrupt, and the NRA doing those videos and stuff like that,
right?
And it's so polluted. It's like it's not going to change, unless people stand up and do what they have to do. But I don't know, man. I mean, but honestly, I think it's going to take more white people being murdered by the police for things to really change. And I don't want that to ever happen, of course,
right.
But I just feel like that's what's going to really take. And maybe that might not even do it. But I only say that because, look at what Michael Vick, the whole thing what happened with Michael Vick,
yeah.
And white people went crazy because of, animals.
Yeah.
It's a certain, I guess, factors, but
yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, thanks for the call, Bryce. Unfortunately, I have to agree, right? I have to agree, and I don't want to say this phrase, and I'm smart enough, I've been doing media long enough to not say this phrase in one sentence that could be sound bitten and used against me, but that's one thing. But then the other reason I don't want to say it is because I don't want to speak things into the damn atmosphere, right? I think it's tragic. I don't care what race they are, but sometimes you can't feel someone's pain until you experience their pain. And you can't empathize. And finally, we need the light to go off around America. We need the light to go off and for people to say, damn, black people have been telling us this forever. Black people have been telling us this forever, and now we're seeing it spill over. We're seeing it cross the tracks. And once it crosses the tracks, you see the absurdity, the blatant absurdity of it. The complete and utter blatant absurdity of cowardly cops. And this is not, somebody keeps saying in the chat room, in the Facebook chat, they're saying, that's fine, come on, bring them to me because I can barely see. They're saying, just toss them right there on the table. Thank you. They're saying that they're ultimately saying that unless they see it, not really that they see themselves, without them feeling the empathy, empathizing with the black community, they'll always believe that it is our fault and not a systemic problem. But the nature of systemic problems is such that it's not going to be contained inside. The militarization, the hyper-militarization of the police is not something that's going to always be contained just to the black community. And you partly empower it if you have ignored it when it happens in the black community. Now, what's being said in the chat room is that it's a small percentage of police officers. Yeah, that's the thing. Listen, I totally get that we might be talking about maybe 3% of the total policing population. But if we have 1 to 3% of our policing population so afraid of their damn shadows that they're going to kill, I mean, this is America. We're talking about a white woman in her pajamas. Now, unless you're going to sit back there and believe that this white woman in her pajamas who called the police was setting them up and came out there and got with a knife and was belligerent, unless you believe that, then you have to believe the opposite side of the equation, which is that this police officer was so afraid and out of his or her element that they shot a white woman in pajamas. I mean, we're talking about the United States of America here. We're talking about where a white woman in pajamas is someone to be rescued from. I mean, this is the American paradigm. But now we've seen this hyper-militarization, one, and then two, this incessant fear for their lives. And this is something that Eddie Glaude Jr., professor of of African American Studies at Princeton University. He said on an interview I did with them a few months ago, if you're so afraid of a 12-year-old, of a kid playing in a park, or a guy on his phone in Walmart just carrying around a BB gun inside of a Walmart, a BB gun that he's getting ready to purchase in an open carry state, if you're so afraid of these people, if you're so afraid of all of these situations that does not warrant fear, why the hell are you a police officer? So I get if people say it's 1%, it's 2%, it's 3%, but what percentage matters when it's your family member that got killed? 857-600-0518 is the number to call in. So, I mean, that's where I am, man. That's where I am. I hate the idea that it takes the lives of people for them to have empathy for the black community. My gut reaction is a gag reflex to that, because that means somebody's family has to suffer. Right? I saw the stepson of Justine Damon in tears. The husband to be in tears. Death. I mean, this might be the most obvious statement I've ever said in my life, but death is fucking permanent, people. And we're talking about a lifelong hurt that never goes away. And to have that person robbed from you because of a person who's too afraid to do their job without pulling a gun and shooting even a white woman in pajamas. I mean, if there's anything America capes for, is white women in goddamn pajamas. And I know that might sound ridiculous, but I'm trying to paint a picture for you to show you if it can spill over to the white community, to a white woman yoga instructor. What do you think has been happening in the black community all this time? And I will say this definitively. The lack of empathy and the lack of concern and the constant excusing away of what's happened in the black community, always vilifying the victims of police violence, always making them the thug, always making them the barbarian, that has contributed to the fact that an ongoing issue that has been festering and never has been addressed is now boiling over to a fever pitch that is spilling over to other communities. All right. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff to be said about that, but I don't want to beat a dead horse. 857-600-0518 if you want to weigh in the conversation. I'm going to read a couple of comments. Dana Pruitt from Facebook says, I think this is a great comment to discuss. She says, as a white person, I don't even think that this will bring a change. The police state is too entrenched as white people ignoring it. Police have been doing to people of color has brought it to a point that it's being used against us. We bear that responsibility and now that cost. And I hope you're wrong, but you very well may not be. I genuinely hope that you're wrong and that perhaps this spilling over, crossing the tracks. I mean, the proverbial tracks. Like, this is not in the black community. Like, this is in the white community. Across the tracks, and it's touched the white community. And you can hear how. Here's the flip side. Here's what I didn't want to discuss, but I'll discuss it anyway. When you hear Justine Damon being discussed, you're hearing her be discussed based on the best of her. Nobody's done a single thing to research how anything negative she's ever done in her past. Nobody's done a single thing to say that she should have complied, or no one has said. Every single outlet, every person talking about this, every individual, whether it's Facebook comments or whether it's YouTube comments or whether it's the broadcaster on ABC News, everyone is talking about this, giving her the benefit of the doubt, saying that this is, one, a tragedy, two, what the entire hell happened. And that is the benefit of the doubt that is not given to the black community. And that is the exact reason we have not addressed the issue, and this has been festering so long, is because the black and brown communities have never been given that benefit of the doubt. It doesn't matter what happened. It doesn't matter who it happened to. It could be the football player who got in a car accident in Florida, and he called for help, and he was staggering around, and he ended up getting killed even though he was the victim. And yet people still look at those situations and say that, oh, he did something wrong. And because people America has never given black people the benefit of the doubt in these types of situations, we see time and time again that there's a rush from the white America to vilify black and brown people in these instances, not just to protect police officers, because they're willing to throw police officers under the bus, but to never lend credence to the narrative that the black community has been shouting all this time. They want us to be wrong. They want us to be barbarians so that they don't ever have to look in the mirror and say, we have a policing institution that is barbaric and that is hyper-militarized and that black people were right about this. But in order to never have to say that, they will make a 12-year-old a monster. They will make a 17-year-old a monster. They will make a black woman a monster. They will make a black man, Eric Gardner, a monster in every single. They will make a black man, Walter Scott, running away from Michael Slager, getting shot in the back, not posing a single iota threat to Officer Slager. They will make him the monster. And the white man, the police officer, and it doesn't matter what race they are, black, white, Hispanic, blue. They protect blue so that they never have to address the systemic problems in the United States of America. 857-600-0518 if you want to weigh in on the conversation. That is a great question, Amber. Why was the body camera cut off? Like that, but we see this all the time. Here's what we see in so many instances, and it is utterly disgusting. We see not only are webcams conveniently cut off, not webcams, but body cams conveniently cut off, we also see that they are cut off in the act. We've seen police officers cut off dash cam audio in the act in order to protect their partner. And so where we have this technology to absolve police officers in instances where they're wrongfully accused, and we've seen examples over this past weekend. There's an example, I'm not sure exactly what state it was in, I'm going off the top of my head, but there's an example of a young white girl who was drunk and high who accused an Asian police officer of sexual assault. And if not for the body cam, her word probably would have taken precedent or been given the benefit of the doubt. So there's instances time and time and again where the body cam has been used to exonerate police officers. But we see in this case and too many other cases, body cams are turned off. And this should just be a mandatory requirement for those to be on at all times. All right, I can't. I mean, a couple other comments. America from Cheryl Lynn. America will pay attention now. Where the cops were African American. Oh, according to early reports. All right, so I'm just seeing that. You damn right. Listen, America's paying attention now. Man, they're gonna crucify these cops, and they're black. Anyway, 857-600-0518. Let me hit a couple other topics. So I'm in an ongoing argument. And I think this is important for us to discuss. I'm in an ongoing argument with some colleagues, not at the company that I'm with, but just colleagues in the industry. And it's an ongoing argument about the absence of media critique from liberals, particularly critiques of CNN, critiques of MSNBC, critiques of the mainstream liberal outlets. Before I go any further, I think it's ironic. I think it's safe to say that in every instance, we never see Fox News bundled together with mainstream media, when in fact Fox News is the quintessential mainstream media. But when they talk about liberal absence of critique or critique in general of the media, they always say, oh, we need to critique CNN, or we need to critique MSNBC, or we need to critique whatever, but they don't say that we need to critique Fox News. But I digress. I'm in an ongoing argument with people in the media who basically are saying that in the absence of a liberal critique of CNN and MSNBC, we have given voice to Donald Trump and the right and their critique of MSNBC and their critique of CNN. Here's the problem with that, and here's why I want to bring it up. It's twofold. On the face of it, I think it's highly irresponsible for anyone who does any type of media to suggest what Donald Trump and the right are doing to the media is anywhere in the bounds of critique. What Donald Trump and the right are trying to do to American journalism is they want American journalism that serves them. They are attacking it and they are bludgeoning it. This is not a critique. This is not a critique from Donald Trump in order to make the media better. This is a bludgeoning by Donald Trump in order to force the media to serve him. And I'm sorry, what's more dangerous? What is more dangerous? An executive, a president of the United States, the president of the United States, attacking our media for the purposes of forcing it to conform to his political agenda? Or a media that's not critiqued and that is elitist, and the media that is at sundry times complicit with power, or perhaps they are in opposition to power, a media that is not responsive to the people, a media that's not beholden to the people. I would argue with you this. Despite the failings of our journalism, despite the failings of our media, despite the failings of CNN and MSNBC and all these outlets, who I have been the first to critique, despite all of the problems there, it is far more dangerous and insidious for the President of the United States to be attempting to destroy any media outlet that does not promote his agenda. That is far more dangerous. You know why? Because it sets a precedent that establishes a dominant relationship between the executive branch of the White House, of the United States government, and our fourth estate. In other words, no matter what problems we have with the media, the President of the United States should not be attacking it in order to force it to comply. And I find it fascinating that people who work in media are the very people who are parroting this talking point, who are suggesting that when Donald Trump calls CNN fake news, that this is some type of valid critique that we should take into consideration because, you know, liberals aren't going to critique CNN, so we need to listen to Donald Trump's critique of CNN. How are you even in media? How are you in American media when I want to say the separation of church and state, but clearly it's not the separation of church and state, but it's the fourth estate. Is the President of the United States should not be able to attack our media to the extent that they have to comply with his wishes. And if there's nobody out there who can tell me, nobody out there can tell me that what Donald Trump wants from the media is something that's fair and balanced. What he wants from the media is something that's fair and balanced by the definition of Fox News. So that's just the first side of it, that you're giving voice to a president who wants state-run media. He wants state-run media, and he wants a media that will simply praise him. And you have the nerve to say that this is some type of critique? No, Michael Tracy, this is not a critique. This is not a critique. And what that tells me is that there is more of a fear of mainstream media as defined by people who have, I don't know, I can't finish that statement and be fair. I'm going to stop that statement. But they have more of a fear of mainstream media than they have a fear of a president who wants to control the media. And if you look at any autocratic society, if you look at any authoritarian society, you know 100% the first thing that they attack is a free press. We can survive. America, democracy, can 100% survive a free press that is so hyper partisan. We can survive having a Fox News and an MSNBC. We can survive having a CNN that talks about freaking black holes being an explanation as to why MH370, Malaysian Airlines 370 disappeared. We can survive that. Democracy can survive that. You know why? Because in the absence of good media and journalistic integrity, someone will fill the void of journalistic integrity. But what we cannot survive is an executive branch that is allowed to attack the fourth estate because you have a problem with the particular type of media coverage that CNN offers. Think about that. You have people in journalism who think that it is better for the President of the United States to attack journalism than it is to have a journalist, a fourth estate that's run amok. Because because I want to be sure here. I want you to be sure about what I'm saying and what I'm not saying. Our media sucks. The mainstream media sucks. Fox News sucks. MSNBC is crap. CNN, I don't know what the hell they be doing over there. It is absolutely a cesspool of ridiculousness. But do we sit back and allow one side of a political spectrum and the executive branch of the government to attack all of media in order to bring it into acquiescence to the will of the President of the United States, and then sit back and have the nerve to say that, oh, this is just a media critique? That's the dumbest thing I've heard today, and I've heard a lot of dumb shit today. We can absolutely survive. Democracy, this is the problem with the democratization of media. It's the same problem that you have with the democratization of information. The more people have access to and the ability to disseminate information, the more people are going to take advantage of it. The more people are going to skew it. The more people are going to be, the more Alex Jones you're going to have of society. That is a necessary evil of the democratization of media and the democratization of information. You're going to have sensationalists who are out there to make a buck, make a profit, and to do so by distorting true information. I would rather have 100 Alex Joneses and I would rather have 100 MSNBCs than to have a media that is controlled by the whims of the White House, by one branch of our government. Because you know why? It may be a difficult role to teach people how to wade through the cesspool, but at least they would have the opportunity to do so. At least we would have the opportunity to inform people more efficiently, to do everything that we can to educate them, to help them to see what's fake news and what's not. Not to cut off all media that we disagree with as fake news. Here's a best example. Facebook right now is going through a transition where they are cutting off page after page after page that is not approved. And page after page after page that is being labeled as fake news. Well, the next question you should ask is, who is the arbiter of that decision? Who decides? Who decides what's fake news? Because it's sensationalized? Well, holy shit, you got to shut down the entire internet. But that should tell you, it is far worse for us to have someone who can stranglehold the information that is being disseminated than it is to throw a naive person into a cesspool and for them to have to find their way through the Alex Joneses of the world and whatever the right, the progressive equivalent. Sorry, H.A., the H.A. Goodmans of the world. I would much rather deal with the extremes of sensationalizations on the left and the right. I would rather weed through 10,000 websites on the left and on the right of ridiculousness than to have Facebook, Amazon, Google, or the White House be able to stranglehold our flow of information, particularly when you're talking about someone like Donald Trump, who doesn't think anything is real unless it kisses his ass. So it blows me away. It really blows me the entire hell away to see somebody in media, somebody who should know this. Actually, Michael, Tracy, we already talked about it on Twitter, so everybody know who I'm talking about from the Young Turks. It blows me away to see anybody suggesting that what Donald Trump and the right is doing to the media right now is a legitimate critique. It is not a legitimate critique. It is an attempt by our president to control our media. And if you disagree with our media, that's one thing. But what you should agree with me on is that the president of the United States should back the entire hell away. And let us, as the people, figure this out. Fritz is coming. A large audience is coming. That's actually part of what you see here. The audience is going to be nice and big. Nice and big. And next week I might even be at a different time. I'll keep you posted. But Fritz is saying Ben should have a much bigger audience. He said, I got to read the next sentence, Fritz, off his YouTube. Holy shit. He said, I can't believe this country is so dumb that Alex Jones and H.A. Goodman have more viewers than someone like Ben. Hey, you can support, though. Go to patreon.com/the BPD show and help us become bigger than those outlets. All right, that's all I got to say with that. Last thing, I know I started late, but you guys, I've been going strong since 9 a.m. this morning. I've been in the office since 9 a.m. this morning. Woke up at 4:30. So forgive me if I do end short. Here's the last thing I want to talk about. Would you believe that there are some people who are so progressive that they've decided the right next move, the correct move for them, the next move that is progressive for them is to align with the alt-right and people like Milo Yiannopoulos, people like Ann Coulter, people like Mike Cernovich and Alex Jones. It's best for progressives to align with people like them in order to attack the propaganda machine of mainstream media and the establishment. Like if this was a table that I owned, I'd have to flip this over. I don't own this table. I can't flip this one. You actually have people who have lost the narrative. They have lost the plot so much so that they think that the next move for progressives is for us to align with anti-establishment alt-right people. Let me describe them effectively. They're talking about people who have the Pepe Frog in their avatar. They're talking about people who are extreme men's rights activists. You're talking about people like Mike Cernovich, who literally tweets about white genocide and believes that the mixing of races, white genocide, by definition, is the thought that mixing of races means the destruction of the white community. He literally was a rape apologist, talking about how impossible it is to rape a girl without force. Therefore, these are the people that they think that the progressive community should align with just because those people are anti-establishment. Have you lost your goddamn minds? Help me understand. I'm at a loss for words. Because, let's start here. The enemy of your enemy is not always your friend. Sometimes the enemy of your enemy is a ratchet piece of shit. Sometimes your enemy of your enemy is a greater enemy that needs to be destroyed even more so than your initial enemy. There is nothing redeemable about people who don't believe that you can rape a woman. There's nothing redeemable about people who don't believe in the acquisition of justice by the black community and the brown communities. There's nothing redeemable about people who make a living off of making America afraid of Muslims. I mean, we can go on and on and on. But you have some progressives, some people who used to support Bernie Sanders, some people who have gone so far that now they think the appropriate next move is for us to find solidarity with those people. Let me help you. I'm going to say this as professionally as I can. Kiss my black ass. Let's take this next caller. Oh, I lost them. Sorry. We won't take the call. No. There is no solidarity with them. There's no quarter for fascists. There's no quarter for neo-Nazis, proto-fascists. There's no quarter for white supremacists. There's no quarter for people who deny my right to exist. There's no quarter for people who deny the LGBTQ community the right to exist and the right to have the same rights that we have. There's no quarter for people who do not believe that women are oppressed in America, particularly in a gender pay gap. And there is absolutely no quarter for people who think that women aren't really being harassed and they're not being really raped. They're really just, they were angry and they got too drunk. What is wrong with you? The establishment is bad. I've got one of the most robust critiques that I will never let go of the establishment. But you know who's worse than the establishment? You know what's worse than the mainstream establishment? It is the mainstream establishment of the alt-right. Do not let them fool you. They are not anti-establishment. They are just as beholden to power as anyone else. They are simply anti your beliefs. They are anti-progressive. And I don't, partly I still, and I say this, not that my audience is big enough to warrant me to say this, but I still feel a responsibility to this because I never fervently spoke out against this as adamantly as I should have time and time and again since the primaries. I left it alone for the longest because I knew that we needed a thriving left in America. We need a left in America that is not being punched down upon by people like me with platforms. And so sometimes you shut your mouth and you let things slide because sometimes the stupid thing that they're saying isn't as important as a flourishing left. And that's been my paradigm. That's been my belief system for a long time. It is don't critique the left, don't critique and slam leftists and progressives because we don't have a left in America. We don't have a thriving left in America. But now it's gotten to a fever pitch of ridiculousness that people who think that they are progressive are willing, and they think it's only logical, and anyone who disagrees with them, you're really the Nazi, you're the real Nazi. They think that the next best move is for them to align with the alt-right. So, because we are all free moral agents, and you can do whatever the hell you want to do, I will say go ahead, feel free. But why wait? Why hesitate? Why half-ass it? Just go all the way. Be like Cassandra Fairbanks. Be like some of these other people who went directly from Bernie Sanders to Donald Trump. Go ahead and go all out. Don't even pretend to be progressive anymore because you're aligning with people who will do everything they can to destroy your political progressive agenda. But you're a free moral agent. You can do whatever you want. And I'll say, Godspeed, best of luck to you. But now, I'm going to do whatever I want. And what I want to do and what needs to be done in this instance is anyone who thinks that it is reasonable for progressives to align with the alt-right is not a friend of progressivism. They are a threat to progressivism. They will undermine. They are literally giving ammunition to neoliberals. They are literally giving voice to the Democratic establishment that has been saying this is who they are all along. Do you realize you are fulfilling the prophecy of people like Joy-Ann Reid, who at one time I liked, but now I can't, like she works my nerves, especially with she works my nerves, but you're literally fulfilling her prophecy saying that the alt-right and the alt-left are two of the same, opposite side of the same coin. You are literally proving the people that we've been fighting against for the longest, you're proving them right. And you're proving them right at the expense of the most marginalized communities. That's what is the insult to injury. The most marginalized communities will always be at the mercy of of people, groups like the alt-right who want to destroy them, who don't, and they not only want to destroy them, but they don't recognize one bit any of the oppression that they suffer. In fact, they are the perpetuators of the oppression that many of these marginalized groups suffer. And so your fantasies of destroying the media establishment and your fantasies of destroying the political establishment is coming, sure, at the expense, though, of the most marginalized communities. Therefore, feel free. You do whatever you want. I can't tell you what to do, but what I can tell you is that if you align with them, I'm sorry, not if, just the mere fact that you think that that's a viable option means that you are not a friend of progressivism. Therefore, we need to fight you just as hard as we fight conservatives. We need to fight you just as hard as we fight neoliberalism. We need to fight you just as hard as we fight anyone else because you are destructive to progressivism. There is no aligning with these people. There is no aligning with people who do not see the problems and the oppression and don't have any empathy for the most marginalized groups in America. That's my story. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right. I do believe that I'm done for tonight, folks. We'll be ready to start on the right time tomorrow. Thanks to everyone on the internet radio show. Thanks so much for listening and downloading the podcast. Become a patron. Go to patreon.com/the BPD show. I'm just giving my producer time to prepare to play the outro music. This is a brand new producer, first time. Shout out to my producer. And but before you play the outro music, I do want to say make sure that you're here tomorrow night at 9 p.m. And make sure that you're here on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. We'll be here on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. At 9 p.m. you can go over on Wednesday 9 p.m. you can watch the Way with Anoa. Make sure that you're there Wednesday at 9 p.m. Thursday night 8 p.m. Be back here for the Discourse with Brandon Sutton and all of the team over there at the Discourse. That's all I've got for you tonight. Good night, everyone. Producer, go ahead and hit DDR2. And when it's done, click the stream button.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.